Staff, it was great being with you. Here are the slideshows that I promised you. I was trying to present priorities for the year 2013 and how they will influence our budget. So that's what's behind this idea. There were three huge things that I was trying to communicate. The first one is a clear focus for our congregation, a 3C church. This is something we've been working on for a while. It is an additional change in language, but I don't want that to throw you. When we find something that works, that communicates, we'll sit on it and make that stick. And I believe that this is where we are with this. I wanted you to know, though you won't really be involved in it, that we have a strategy, that we're developing strategies and actions on our debt to become a debt-free church. And then finally, to increase passion for life change and community transformation, to be a multiplying church. That's a phrase we've used a lot. We've multiplied in locations. But I find it critical to keeping us moving forward. So that's why I included it. The clear focus, as you remember, has celebrate, connect, and contribute that we're trying to launch kind of a new, so maybe a new logo, new visionary kind of materials. In January, we'll preach on celebrate. Actually, we outlined that service yesterday after staff meeting, and so that's what's coming there. Related to it specifically, I wanted to review some of the staff changes, some of the ways that we're changing, so that you would know when I say this impacts the budget, what I mean. We are not just a pastor working on a sermon and a worship director or pastor working on a worship set. We are collectively working together in addition to those separate things. Pastors still working on their sermons and our worship leaders still working on their things. We meet five or more of us at a time for a couple hours a week. That's 10 man-hours collectively to make sure that our sermons and services are aligned and thought through. We've also supplied curriculum that our staff, members of our staff have written and are continuing to write. And we're going to add to this whole idea of celebrate in January. We'll probably, as we talked about it yesterday, after staff meeting, we'll really need to introduce some devotional ideas prior to January, like in December, around Christmas and after Christmas. So if you have any of those, please send them to me. If you have ideas like this is the reading plan I use. Currently, me, Kevin, I use the one-year Bible. It's something I can carry on my iPad, and we have multiple copies around the house. It's real easy for me to pick back up. So we're going to encourage the whole church to get behind one or more of those for the next year. And as I said yesterday, our services have changed in that we have expectations for participation in the service. We're not just asking people to come and listen to a sermon or listen to singing or even sing a few songs. We're asking them to stand and pray or give praise. We're asking them to celebrate in communion differently. We're asking them to confess and making time for that in the service. So that's just a change, a way that we're resourcing the whole Sunday morning differently. And we've started putting out surveys to selected people in our congregation, some of our staff. If you'd like to be on that list, like I said yesterday, we're not excluding anybody. We want people to be a part of that. You're welcome to join us and help us think better about what we present to the congregation. In terms of connection, this is probably where we'll continue to put the largest part of our effort of the 3 C's, though hopefully it'll also include contribute. But groups and gatherings, we've already had our gatherings, just new language, but we've really been reinforcing community groups, community groups, community groups. That community group emphasis is reinforced in our ministry community, where we're trying to train our leaders and our coaches. And in that ministry community, there's a number of staff. Michael Rhodes brings his youth staff to a great cost to him. It's a different night than his usual training. It's a little different emphasis. So he's trying to join in with the overall vision of the church. Thank him for that. Critter and his team have been doing Thursday nights. That's how we landed on it. and why we meet in ministry community at the campus to capture as much of the college ministry that's going on. The YP leadership for the young professional is also there. I'm there. Hans is there. Corey is there, in addition to youth staff, college staff. Betty Jean is there with George, her husband, as coaches. She's staff, and he's an elder. Kay Wallace and her husband, Steve, who's an elder, are there. So there's more staff and elders. Jim and Judy Hazlitt, another elder and wife, are there as coaches. Ann, Eunice, and Corky are there as community group leaders. And so that group has a lot of staff and elder participation. Mike and Phyllis Young are there as coaches also, another elder. So a lot of emphasis there. And then I mentioned how we've resourced staff resourcing for ministry, community, and focus. Ken Drake is not just worship arts ministry anymore. He's part of that, but partly he is helping now with ministry community. He and Kathy are going to help us be coaches. It's a different role for them, but it's a kind of a realignment of our staff using their shepherding gifts just a little differently. After his fall, though, he's just kind of stepping into that. Corey is giving more of his time to community groups, and Hans, of course, wears the hat of community group director. So we're all kind of putting in there. Contribute, we have a launch of ideas in January. Hans mentioned the fact that you guys need to make sure you get your job descriptions to him. The youth ministry's got maybe the lead in this, but if we want people to be involved in our church in the various ways, creating avenues to do that. So if you haven't responded to Hans's preparation team, please let him know. More and better ways to contribute in the chapel for intra-connection, so we actually know and care for ourselves, and more and better ways to contribute to the community of Baton Rouge. I really feel like last week at our service, we missed an opportunity to really have some tangible ways to have our congregation reaching out. So hopefully we'll do better on that in the Baton Rouge community. Annette brought to our attention the Kids Hope Party. There's a great example. 100 volunteers necessary in our love and service to Wildwood Elementary. Becoming a debt-free church, I just wanted to alert you, though many of you knew it, that we have refinanced our loan, which is helping us pay at that as we raise refinance our loan, allowing us to pay more on our principal. Also, in our financial communications, we always mention it now, so numbers of people give directly to it. I didn't mention yesterday, but it's good to know that we redirected our Vision 6-8. We had a fund for that, even though that campaign closed. People still gave to it, so we sent a communicate directly to them, asking them, letting them know we're going to actually close that account physically and redirect their money to debt reduction, and challenging them to do that, and many have. Just this past week, there was $4,000 given to debt reduction that I noticed in the report yesterday after staff. So I wanted you to know that, and I wanted you to know that my heart is just a removal of all the debt, and we're looking at some ways to put that together so the congregation would, one, understand it, and two, be able to get behind it. Multiply. It's again on my heart, and you multiply disciples through conversion. We see a lot of our church is churched people. They come from other churches. They come into town and they're already Christians. And I'm trying to tap into the beautiful history of the chapel, which is to have people come to know Jesus straight up for the first time. Conversion. You multiply groups by equipping. That's what we try to do with ministry community. It all rises and falls on leadership. We try to multiply our gatherings by involving. Of course, gatherings are facility dependent often, and so they're harder to reproduce. Probably the major distinction between a group and a gathering is that groups are more easily reproduced. This year, one of the highlights that I've heard about is we've handed off all of the ministry of men's fraternity to the laymen of Pete Adams and Tommy Teeple at Lamar. And 64 men showing up at one time on Friday mornings at 6. If that stays around 60, that's a beautiful thing. But to reproduce it, you'd need a kind of another Lamar building, which is part of the success of it. You multiply congregations by sending. You sending people out saying, we want to start a new location, a new church. We want to help birth a new work here. And so multiply. I end it with these thoughts. And I really like this one. Without a mindset to multiply, we create a culture to satisfy. In other words, if we're not thinking about reproducing, then we start thinking about how to refine. And this makes our refinement can become more and more expensive. Just think about the temple and the tabernacle. The tabernacle was made to move. And so while it was very intricate and had very special things, the temple, Solomon's temple, was very ornate. And then, of course, Herod's temple didn't exceed it, but it tried to match it. And, and I'm not taking, please don't misunderstand me, I'm not taking away anything from the temple, but just as a model of, one is mobile and more simple, one is stationary and set. Without a mindset to disciple people, we become focused on developing programs. Programs become the focus if we're not careful. As I said yesterday, we all know what it's like to have a program or something where we have to feed the monster, meaning the program kind of takes a life of its own, and you got to make sure you've got all the people in place just to execute the program, which may or may not be accomplishing what you initially set out to do. So, and the last one is, without a compassion for the lost, we become consumed with our own lives. That is just so true. And so I wanted you to have these. I wanted you to hear my heart, and I hope this has been helpful. And I'll send the other show along with it. Thanks.